stand by. Goliath, this is 2 Bravo. Request permission to engage enemy paratroopers and attempt to snatch a grid Papa uniform 259er 119er. Break. Enemy is unaware of our presence at this time. Over.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Ben Powers. Welcome to the Commander's Voice. Today with me is Mr. Gary Rezabek, who is a past president of the 82nd Airborne Association, and he currently is the project coordinator for the Wounded Warrior Fund and its relationship with the association. So, Gary, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Benjamin.
Hey, so to start things off, Gary, could you give us a little bit about your background as a paratrooper and your experiences that led you to become a officer with the association, but please start like with your active duty and your deployment experiences or anything else of that nature.
Sure. My uncle had told me, go into the Army, be the best trained you can be. So at that time, they were allowing kids off the street to go to Special Forces training. And so I said, okay, I want to be a medic with them, and went through basic and AIT. And then I jump school was part of it. So that was just a stepping stone. And I got to Fort Bragg and I got into SF training and I broke my arm. Well, you couldn't get promoted in a training status. So what's the nearest place I can go? 82nd Airborne. So I got assigned to the 4th Battalion, 68th Armor, the only airborne tank battalion in the free world. Okay, we had the Sheridan tanks. And I became a senior medic of a company there and guided my medics with that. I ended up going then down to 20th Engineer Brigade and worked with them for a while, bridge building and heavy equipment. And the Army offered me a re-enlistment. There was nothing going on in Cleveland. So I ended up going through a short course to teach medics to work in a hospital. So after that, I got assigned to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and I worked with cardiovascular thoracic surgery for a year. And I was there at the time when President Reagan got shot, and all my surgeons left to go over to the hospital he was taken to because it was 1 minute closer. But we had to stay in place for a little while. And then the Army decided they were going to get rid of that MOS, and they offered me going back to being a field medic or becoming an LPN. So I attended the LPN course, Licensed Practical Nurse, in William Beaumont Army Medical Center. And after that, I did a stint at Aberdeen Proving Grounds, the emergency room, went to Germany, 3rd ID, worked with the 1st and 7th Infantry as a senior company or senior battalion aid man as a 91C. I had my own 577. So, an LPN driving around in a 577 APC is pretty cool. Then I got back to Fort Bragg, and they offered me a chance to go to the 44th Med Brigade, where I went down there. And then I did a lot of traveling, Central and South America, pulling med rep missions down there. Helped form the first forward surgical team that was used in combat, was Panama in 1989. I assisted in treating over 60 combat casualties that came through my ATLS section of the tent. So we were operating right out of a tent there. And I ended up getting the Bronze Star for that in Panama. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to get a nice cushy job, go up to Womack Army Hospital, wear whites, and the balloon went up for Desert Storm. So my team deployed there with the 82nd in August of that year. And we spent 9 months over there. We went up into Iraq. We were doing surgeries right behind the battle lines and on mostly Republican guards, where in Panama we treated mostly Americans. So treating the enemy was a little bit different. My section was in charge of searching them and making sure that they were secure and any advanced trauma life support we could give. And then we covered the withdrawal of the 24th there. And I got back on a plane, went to Womack Army Medical Center, got in charge of the orthopedic floor. And then 1994, we had the plane crash at Pope Air Force Base, of which MASCAL, okay? How many people can say they were in combat twice and then also was in a MASCAL for airplane crash? So we treated a lot of people that day, a lot of emergency medicine going on right up in the hallways there. And then we got them all shipped down to Fort Sam Houston. I became an evening night nursing supervisor and retired from there. I then came up to Cleveland, got involved with the 82nd in the local chapter, and said, I want to be a director someday. So I put in for a director, became a director, And then I said, I think I can be president someday. And I retired a little bit early because I had my military retirement. I had my disability from the military, and then Social Security kicked in. So at 62, I decided I'll run for president. And I ran for president for 2 years, of which COVID had hit in the second year. So we had to keep the association going by having Zoom meetings and the way we did business a little bit differently. So I kind of feel like I was the bridge between the old military and then the GWAT guys, transitioning there, more of a modern army. So after that, I had 2 good years of being president. I continued on with being the Wounded Warrior president for the association, which is very dear to me. And we were able to rewrite our bylaws and help more soldiers in that way. So
No,
that's basically it in a nutshell.
that's a great summary, Gary. You know what? That's an amazing career. And I really am impressed by the fact that your practical experience as a medic and as an LPN and a combat veteran kind of feeds directly in to the empathy that you have for the wounded warriors and kind of that expanded definition. As we were talking before, we hit record, you were saying there used to be that really limited definition of a Purple Heart recipient, and now you've been able to expand it to understand that people suffering from PTS or TBI have equally suffered in the service of their country and deserve, while not the recognition of a Purple Heart decoration, they definitely deserve the recognition of the support that a project like the Wounded Warrior Fund can provide. Was that a tough sell when you started working that? Were there people who still had the old school definition of, hey, he didn't lose a limb or she did not receive a Purple Heart, therefore they shouldn't be able to access the services of Wounded Warrior Fund?
That's a damn good question, because I'm going to tell you there was resistance. Just like I saw resistance between other wars in the past, we had a resistance to, they felt that people with PTSD were clogging the halls of the VA system. That's what I was told one time. And we hit the ceiling. We deal with our things differently. I had a nice talk with Travis Mills, who was a quad amputee from the 82nd, one of only 5 that survived. And he helped me rewrite it to include the training accidents, because the guys that got hurt on the jump were training for war. It just didn't happen during war. They're just as hurt. We received some negative stuff about switching it over and using our funds for that. But now that they see it's a good thing, and it's bringing people, especially the younger soldiers, in to the association, and we can reach out and help them in different ways and not be limited by I'll put it like this. The Purple Heart can vary from a scratch to being killed. And I'm not saying that it's a great thing to award that to a soldier that's been hurt, but the people that train in peacetime and get injured, such as the airplane crash at Pope Air Force Base, or some of the other people we've helped take care of, and the Gold Star families of the soldiers that have fallen, having to expand that and get away from that negative attitude of that people are clogging the hallways of the VA hospital and they can't get care. That's not true either.
No, understood. And that's very interesting that you had, a quadruple amputee kind of as an ally to be able to rewrite the eligibility criteria. And imagine that lent a lot of credibility to what you were trying to accomplish.
It did. And reaching out more, having the broader guidelines, we were able to help Gold Star families, or a soldier that was injured, that maybe the whole family doesn't get compensated for traveling to a hospital or their hotel, or they might be a wounded warrior. And give you an example. Somebody's kid is going through school, wanted a grant, didn't meet other guidelines to get that scholarship or grant. So we are able to help them out. We were able to help somebody out that their house got flooded and they couldn't meet the deductible on their insurance and they couldn't pay for the hotel. We paid for that. And that's kind of the things that we opened up, switching from strictly Purple Heart combat injury to training accidents and Gold Star families.
Tracking. Now, if you, for a hypothetical, if you have a chapter that has a trooper who has an injury associated with their service, albeit peacetime training accident or combat, how do they access the service that the association provides?
They can contact the association itself, national, or on the website. We do have a page for the Wounded Warriors, and it lists my name and my secretary, which is Maggie Peppers, who is the current vice president of the association. And you can contact us, and we will talk about the eligibilities. We do everything from helping the soldier in need to organizing reunions, which are just as healthy for that individual to meet with people. I had one guy, he said at the last convention, he hadn't smiled in 5 years. And he was laughing and joking, and he contacts us, and he's on Facebook and telling everybody what a great job and what a great time he had meeting up with his buddies again. Because we're lost out there sometimes in the civilian world. You know, people don't get us. I get it all the time now. I get used to it. I laugh at it. I chuckle. I go, I'm special. You know, I'm Gary's kid. So we do that, and we just having that family come together. And I call the Airborne my family. I really mean it. I'm closer to them than I am to my brothers and sisters. So
No,
we'll
I understand. That's really important that when a lot of folks, when they leave the service, kind of do feel that disconnection, and you've lost your tribe, and if allowing someone to reconnect with their tribe is fabulous. And as an aside, Maggie Peppers is pretty awesome too. She's been a guest on the show in the past, and I can't imagine a better paratrooper to be supporting this effort with you.
She's a dear friend. She's a hard charger, and she gets things done.
So you alluded earlier that as your time in the presidency, you were there during the COVID period when things went remote and you had to rely on social media and Zoom and things like that to get things done. How do you see, just in general, that's a snapshot in time, but that's a snapshot in time where you had to rely on new technologies or relatively new technologies compared to having in-person meetings and sending out paper copies of the Paraglide and things like that. How do you see the association leveraging those technologies or just going in a different direction to attract younger paratroopers? Because everyone's still, here we are in 2025, and the first thing I think of, and maybe it's because I'm an old man now, but the first thing I think of when I think 82nd is still its World War II legacy and the older generation, which we've effectively lost at this point. So how do we make sure that we're getting the younger troopers who are just coming off active duty, who don't really have a propensity, as far as I can tell, to join things? How do we track them and retain them?
One is we get their information before they leave. I have a thought process where we offer them a free membership for a year, get their contact information, and then tell them after a year they would have to join. That's one idea. Having social media out there that we can, they can look us up and see what we're doing. The days of snail mail are out. We found out during that COVID period that we could process things a lot quicker than waiting for the annual convention to vote on a matter. We could have the board of directors vote in February, March, April, May, June, July, before we got to August, and have it ready. If it was something the general membership had to vote on, that's a little bit different story. It's a little bit harder to reach out to that many people, but we can still get things done. And that's because of the social media. Getting the new troops in and letting them see what we do and know and be aware that we're around. The first 4 or 5 years they get out, they don't want to have nothing to do with us. They want to be free from the military. They want to start their family, get their job going, get their lives together. And then they start having that little nostalgia, little reminiscing of what the days were like, and getting back with the people that they serve with, that understand what it means to jump out of an airplane, or be behind enemy lines and be surrounded, and tell their war stories. And the VFW, that's good, and the American Legion, that's good, but being with somebody that was actually in that kind of soup with you, then it's more appealing. So we got to get that message out there, and the only way to do it right now is through videos like this, or nobody's reading a newspaper anymore. So we have to find a way to contact them, get them in there and seeing what we do and make it appealing. And what I found in putting out there is the more you're involved in your community, the bigger your chapter is going to be, or your retainability of people. People want to come and do something. They don't want to have a picnic or drink a beer at the VFW. They want to go out and do something meaningful. So I incorporate that. I'd like to get more into this electronic age. And yeah, I had to learn computers because I was a nurse, but I'm still a baby learning to crawl with this.
So you really hit on something that I find interesting, the idea that people want to be involved in something where they get out and do something and not just have a barbecue or get a beer down at the Legion Hall. Uh, are there any initiatives that would allow the association to become more of a service organization? And that may not be the right terminology, but initiatives where you can partner with, Soup Kitchen or do some
Mm-hmm.
type of community improvement drive. Have you seen anything like that coming up from chapters as we get younger and more community active or more service-minded uh, young troopers involved? And I don't mean that to disparage the older community. I just mean that taking chapters in a little bit different direction.
I consider myself a plagiarizer. If I see something good in another chapter, I'm going to steal it and call it my own, and I'm going to tell them I'm doing it. So when I see like the chapter down in Hilton Head, or not Hilton Head, oh my God, by Savannah, uh, it'll come to me. But they work at the USO for the airport. They sign up, and somebody takes a day, 1 day a week. We have a group locally that has some of the old auxiliary we had that still go up to the VA hospital here and take pizzas. Uh, Different things like that, getting involved in the community makes a big difference. Going out and publicly speaking, not everybody speaks at schools, but going out and doing that, and reaching out and letting people know what it was like or what our era was. Us Desert Storm, Panama, Just Cause people, we're going to be forgotten. GWAT's been a 20-year war, but we still got to put it out there and educate people. So getting involved in the community, there's many different ways. Um, and even if it's being involved in your local VFW or American Legion, which I'm lucky enough to be in a community that does some good work with that. We also networking. And by networking, I don't know it, but I know somebody who does. And that helps the younger troops. And they're a good resource too, because they can tell you what's going on in the military. I talked to my nephew that just got out, 101st. Okay. But he's got a set of wings. But he served in Zaire, and he updated me on what the thinking of the younger generation is in the military and what they're going through. So it helps me kind of drive and what I need to change in our chapter to make it more appealing to them. And again, it's going out and doing things in the community.
No, that's fantastic. And the that leads naturally into this next question, especially talking about your nephew. Like you said, Panama and Desert Storm were over 30 years ago now. I mean, the crash at Pope was over 30 years ago now. I remember being a young officer in the 82nd in the early 90s, and it was amazing to get to meet the World War II generation, but the Vietnam generation was kind of really running things. And those guys were like my dad's age. And now we've got young troopers coming out, and the Desert Storm era guys are their dad's age. Is there a concerted effort to get younger troopers who are in the association interested in leadership earlier so they don't feel perhaps that they're as disconnected as they might, like, oh, the boomers are running the show still, and allowing them, I don't even like the word allowing, but letting them know where the opportunities are to lead a project or try to get into directorship or things of that nature?
On our board now, I think we have the youngest, brightest board that we've ever had. We have a lot of younger guys, to include Maggie and a few of the other people on it that, yeah, they were serving during that GWAT era. And so we are opening up to leadership roles. When I first joined one of the chapters, it was run by World War II guys, and they dictated everything that went on in that chapter. They allowed me to become the vice chairman. Allowed me, not voted in, you were allowed. And then we hit a snag because they had they knew where all the paperwork was. They knew how to do things. We weren't trained. Now I'm passing it off to other people. We're doing it at national, encouraging newer people to come on in, and we're gonna see that keep on growing. Last year's convention, we sponsored approximately 30 people, of which five of them were the 82nd Airborne Crash. The others were from Bravo Company. If you read the book Bravo Company, McAllister and his boys were there, and then we had another group of guys there, and it was like a third of the 73rd guys, and it was just amazing to have all those GWAT guys there, and so happy. And they attended our Wounded Warrior meeting. They wanted to be a part of that, and we brought it together. And so right now it's clicking. It was hard for them to get to trust me the first couple years, but now it's like, yeah, he says, or what we say, we got to do. And if we're going to help them and let them on board, we got to let them come on and make their own mistakes too. And we'll give them guidance, not tell them what to do.
No, that's awesome, and that's how the association, not just even at the national level, but at every chapter level, that's how we're going to survive and thrive. I think that's great. The I mean, all honor and deference to the World War II guys. They quite literally set the standard for us, but at the same time, you don't want to get caught in that cycle of gatekeeping and making the next generation figure it out for themselves. So I'm thrilled to hear that that's the direction that things are going. We're coming up on the end of our time, Gary, but the last question I have, and it's not really a gotcha question, but is there anything that you can share with us about maybe some cool initiative that the association is going with that it may not have been unveiled yet? Just any neat ideas that might be coming up on the horizon.
We have Troop Night Out, and you can go to the website, where we sponsored veterans and active duty troops from the 82nd to go to like the Fayetteville, I forget their name now, the Woodpeckers or the Generals. It was the Generals in my time, but they have a night out and they sponsored the food for them. They're going to do it for a hockey game. That's one of the initiatives that's up and coming. That's catching the hearts and minds of not only the command, but of the soldiers that are at Fort Bragg. And we also had a outward bound type deal where they'd go up to New York. We have a program that goes down, send a couple of troopers down to Tampa Bay, and they go to my Warriors place run by a Gold Star mother named Kelly Kowal, whose son died with the 82nd. And they go down there and they're sponsored for a week. So we get them out and they go back and they tell their friends. And then their friends tell friends, and then they want to go to something. So we have a couple programs like that. And if you go to the website and look under the paraglide or some of the things that they do, they'll be able to look up some of those things. We're outreaching to sponsor soapbox derbies for kids, for the kids, and they can build it with their father. Little, family action there. So we got a couple things in play, and they're not as big as they could be, but they're going to be.
That's awesome. Like the whole, longest journey starts with the smallest step. So that's fantastic. So that's pretty much our time, Gary. But hey, everybody, this has been Ben Powers, Commander of the Commander's Voice. My guest today has been combat veteran paratrooper Gary Rezabek, who is past president of the 82nd Association and currently the Wounded Warrior Fund president for the association. And Gary, thank you so much for coming out today and talking about all the fantastic things that the association is doing today.
You're welcome.